Great, thank you so much. Okay, so my name is Janice Chan, and I'm proud to kick off our LEND CAP project presentation series here. My community placement was with Dr. Mary Baker Erickson at the Intricate Mind Institute, and my project is focusing on closing the accommodations gap for neurodiverse college students. Due to some unforeseen circumstances, unfortunately, my community placement didn't really pan out as we had planned. But what it did is help to reveal some barriers and help me to develop some potential solutions for how neurodiverse college students can receive support, better supports at universities. And that really helped to form the basis of my community action project. So Maya, next slide. Thank you. So that brings me to the community need that was identified, which is that in order to support neurodiverse college students, faculty and staff need to be equipped with tools and tips and supports that are really centered around the student experience. So not only was this relevant for my community placement and for LEND as a whole, but also as my role as a lecturer in the special education department at San Diego State. Next slide, please. So in order to unveil this community need, what I did was I conducted a literature review and distributed surveys to students, faculty, and staff at San Diego State. And I also conducted some focus groups. And so here on this slide are some of the findings from those sources. First of all, unfortunately, my surveys had pretty low response rates. Of all the students that I sent it to, only 2 responded. Only 12 faculty and staff, and only 4 of those 12 faculty and staff, only 4 participated in the focus groups. To me, the most alarming piece is the low student response rate because of my hope and priority in centering that student experience. It really, to me, revealed the need for community programs to have more realistic timelines and partnerships that are centered in the college student experience. Secondly, I did ask in the survey about faculty, how faculty felt prepared for supporting neurodiverse students, and 45.5% of those respondents indicated a 3 on a 5-point scale. So that just illustrates the need for further training. That was taken apart a little bit more deeply in the focus groups. A further discussion during those focus groups, a resounding need from faculty members was a need for easy access to sample language that would help describe the supports, and templates that are neurodiversity friendly, such as syllabi and other assignment instructions that are really use-friendly language that's very clear for all students. Third, a common theme that appeared was a challenge in obtaining official accommodations through university disability support centers. This was common. I saw this in both student surveys, faculty surveys, as well as the literature that I read. And in fact, in recently published literature, they suggest that neurodiverse students may benefit from faculty being open to self-disclosure. And so what that means is that when students have a private conversation with a professor, and the professor is willing to provide support regardless of whether their disclosure is on official file with the university, that student may be able to receive more individualized supports from that faculty member. The faculty that I talked with in my focus groups reported that they've been able to better meet students' needs when they have that personal conversation and when students are willing to self-disclose with that particular professor. Finally, additional supports are needed on university campuses, especially with regards to social and sensory needs. Examples of these could include affinity groups such as a disability cultural center, as well as judgment-free spaces for neurodiverse students to engage in self-regulating behaviors. Next slide. So given these findings, I've developed 2 products, and I can make digital copies of these available upon request. In the interest of time, I won't be going into these in detail, but maybe if there's time during the Q&A, I would be happy to screen share and show you. But those 2 products are a faculty tip sheet and an interactive accessible syllabus. Next slide. So here on this slide, what you'll see is an excerpt from those two products. In the left, in the brown box, you'll see a tip from the faculty tip sheet, and then over on the right, you'll see how that tip was built out in the sample syllabus. So we see on the left, offering simple policies for deadlines by providing reminders and when reasonable, offering extensions and revisions. In the syllabus, the faculty might state something like this: due dates for all assignments are listed in the course schedule on the syllabus and will appear in the Canvas calendar. In this class, learning and high quality work are priority over due dates. Submit a rough draft by the stated deadline, and then contact me to request feedback and negotiate a new timeline. So we see that flexibility, we see clear expectations for the students. Thank you, Paul. Couple more slides. So next slide, please. Okay, so in terms of implications and proposed next steps, a big one would be funding. We learned here in Lend about how funding is an outer context support that could help facilitate the delivery of evidence-based practices in the community. So take, for example, building a disability cultural center. The university would need funding in order to provide staffing and various activities to attract students to affiliate with that disability cultural center. Another next step is the need to clarify how staff and faculty can access both department and campus-specific resources. So this was true especially for lecture or non-tenure track faculty who participated in my focus groups, who tend not to be quite as aware about what kinds of supports are offered at the university, who offers what, and things like that. So for example, if a student approached a lecture about needing a quiet place to study or take an exam, perhaps the lecturer could use a list of empty offices or classrooms that the department could prepare. And so finally, there is a continued need for using practices that center the voices of neurodiverse students. And although my project set out to do that in the very beginning, the low response rates really reveal a need to consider what appropriate methods are needed in order to get enough students to respond to something like this, as well as the timing and perhaps even incentives that might appeal more to students. Next slide. And so finally, I just want to thank everybody who's been involved in my Lend experience, the Lend directors and core faculty, my CAP committee, my Mary Baker Erickson for my community placement, and as well as my Lend mentor, Dr. Sonia Pruitt-Lord. And also not listed, but equally important, the survey and focus group participants who really shaped my project. So with that, I'm open for questions, or you're also welcome to email me at the email address listed on the slide. Thank you.